All right, Mr. Quinn, I believe you indicated you would like to make a motion to amend our agenda.
Yes, Mayor, appreciate that. I do make a motion that we move the new business,
Item number 8.
item number 8, to the front of the agenda.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the question.
Andre,
Aye.
Cowdery,
Aye.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Shepherd, Vandenberg.
Aye.
All right, is there an item under new business, Mr. Quinn, you'd like to discuss?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, I'd like to actually make a motion that we allow Amy Miller, one of our council members, to participate in the meeting. Even though she's not here, she expressed a desire to participate and was unable to be here due to work. And due to the importance of the business that we have to conduct, I'd like to make a motion that we allow her to participate electronically on a one-time only basis here. I don't want to set any kind of a precedent or change policy in the future. We can address that at another time.
I second.
All right, is there any discussion on his motion?
Madam Mayor,
Mrs. Gibbs?
I just have a couple of questions, Pat.
Okay.
You're saying a one-time deal. How do you say that we can single out one person for a one-time situation? I think that's a difficult thing to do. Say, for example, next month, if, say, Dave Shepherd, who's been working on the Gateway, and he
Right.
is out of town, and he's been doing a lot with Bruce, and how do we say that he can't Skype? Or the Planning Commission chair, or somebody from the Park Board, or how do we say that maybe 2 or 3 of us want to stay home and just Skype? I think this is a difficult situation, and I think we have a problem in the future.
Well, since we hadn't discussed it at a committee meeting, I was thinking, and this is the first time it's come up that I'm aware of, but I figured we could bring it up at the Finance Administration meeting, discuss it, and then if need be, we can make a recommendation on a policy change so that in the future we'll have a policy set that we can abide by. But at the same time, I'll tell you, you won't get me to ever make another motion to allow somebody to do this unless we do have some kind of policy change, so that's the one time.
You know, that is something that I'm concerned about because we've had a, 60-plus year policy of being physically present. We don't need an additional person for a quorum. We're, singling out a single person rather than looking at the good of the whole. And I'm really concerned about, even though you say it's a one-time deal, that knee-jerk reacting, especially under a really tight time frame, because the request was just made a day and a half ago, without thinking it through is a problem. I mean, one of the things that we expect of our, people, of our appointed officials, are like Planning Commission and our boards and commissions, is that they are in attendance at those meetings, and if they're not, they get removed or they don't get reappointed if they have a lot of absences. And to apply kind of a difference, to start allowing people electronically to appear, it just causes me some concern because people expect us to be here so that they can face us. And if having people electronically appear was going to be important to a conversation, last week when I had taken my daughter to college, you could have, contacted me at that point for the conversation, and that wasn't an issue that came up. And I think to do something knee-jerk on a short period of time just really isn't good policy.
Well, Mayor, it's not something that hasn't been done before. It hadn't been done by this council, but there are other city councils where people have done this, and in a lot of the cities in Kansas. And to be honest with you, had you asked to do it last week, I'm sure we could have made a vote and allowed that too. But again, this is kind of a irregular meeting. I know it's happened in the past where you have to have a second
That's
meeting
correct.
in the month.
not a regular.
but, well, but still irregular that you normally get business done in the first meeting. And so Amy had to be out of town. This is a really important thing. She has a constituency that she speaks for. It's not just about Amy, it's about the people in the city of Mission too. So, yeah, I'm asking that we make an exception this one time.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Shepherd?
Well, I mean, we're talking about this being a one-time exception, but I'm going to tell you this has been a 48-hour distraction for everybody sitting up here around this table. Instead of talking about hardscape, instead of talking about downtown Johnson Drive, instead of talking about whether the interceptor is a good idea or not a good idea, whether we've been talking about our budget or our budget resolution, we've been talking about whether or not a one-time exception ought to be allowed for the first time in the 60-year history of this city to let an absent council member take a vote and listen in without any sort of policy. And to me, this one falls in the same category as the motion under new business last week. Again, maybe it has some merit where it said we ought to allow some public comment during committee meetings. Okay, maybe we should. But I also think it's bad public policy to take a one-time exception and say, we're going to create this, because it's never a one-time exception. Once we start down this path, there will be other folks that raise their hand and say, but you did it that one time. And I'm going to tell you what, personally speaking.
Dave, it could be
No,
a
wait a
one-time
second.
exception.
I have sat up around this table over 6 years now, and I will put my travel schedule up against anybody on this council. And what I will tell you is, I have missed meetings, and I have taken unbelievable heat because I have missed meetings. Sometimes from constituents, sometimes from her, but I have taken a lot of heat. And you know what? That's what I choose to do. But when I went back out there and I knocked on a lot of doors in Ward 4 this last go-around, folks liked the direction we're going, and I had to answer to some folks for why I wasn't there. And I provided an explanation. For me, it's okay that people work, it's okay that people travel, but I also don't think it's good public policy to support this motion.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
It was checked out with LKM, and it did say it was legal and fitting. And I just thought that they were
Legal on one.
the organization that said what was legal and fitting, and that I don't even know why we would need an ordinance to okay something that LKM says is legal and fitting. Also, I do want to say that Amy has spent hours and hours in committee meetings and never missed a meeting. And this is such an important meeting. This is Johnson Drive Interceptor and the 2013 budget, and we have come down to crunch time. And this is not just because of the council that we're here. Meetings were postponed, and we have a lot of variable opinions on this council. We can vote against something or for something and have 8 different reasons to do it. But I just do hate to see somebody not be able to vote. If it is deemed legal and fitting, to me, that would be inappropriate not to allow it, unless we made an ordinance that said so.
Well, in speaking with Don Moeller, who's the executive director of the League of Kansas Municipalities, that is not his opinion. There is an attorney general's opinion that says having someone participate remotely doesn't violate Kansas open meetings laws. There are instances where it has been used in outstate Kansas because they've needed to get a quorum and someone is infirmed and not physically able to get into the council meeting for whatever that night is, and there's something that they need to resolve. I do know that on occasion, two of our neighboring cities have used a remote. I believe one council member was working out of town for a period of time and is no longer a council person, and I believe they allowed that council member to participate. But it is, and by no means the norm, and it's a huge slippery slope. You open the door, I don't see how you stop it, even if you want to say it's one time. It's a big policy shift, and, you know, eventually and how do you okay what's right for one person, what's not right for another? I just look at this as a knee-jerk reaction, and that never creates good policy. And this is a big public policy issue, because when people come to city council meetings, they expect to be able to have us here and be able to interact with us. And so I don't see a reason why this evening it's necessary.
And I'm going to say, again, I think it's necessary because she needs to represent her constituency, and she, because of work, couldn't be here. She asked to do it. There was no policy that was in place that said she couldn't do it. So that's why we're taking this vote, to see if we would allow her this one time. Now, how do we do it this one time? Apparently Dave couldn't figure this out. But I'm telling you, at the Finance Administration meeting, you have a discussion about it, and we'll make a recommendation to the council about a policy regarding it. And if you don't ever want to allow it, we can vote on that. If you,
Mr. Quinn, I think this is a
then
bigger
you'll have
issue.
something in place.
This is a bigger issue than a finance, this is a work session issue. This isn't a
Okay,
committee.
a work session.
This isn't a committee issue, and it's something that we all need to talk about, as well as the public needs to be engaged in on different expectations, because it's more than, and what you said just once again makes it about a single council member, because Ward 2 is well represented by Mr. Vandenberg over here. And, you know, I don't, all the arguments circle back to, this is something that she wants to do, so you were wanting to alter a 60-year custom and practice because it's something she wants. And I don't know that it's for the good of the whole council to be able to be making those types of motions, to be making exceptions, because, yeah, what's the next exception? And she's also been working with Mr. Shepard and Bruce Kimmel on the development agreement, and, you know, what happens if she's out of town for that? That is an equally important, I mean, we don't have unimportant motions up here. So I have grave concerns and reservations. And then sort of to parrot on Mr. Shepard, you know, I mean, it's been a distraction. And because I've heard about it. Ms. Cowdery's weighed in, one of her constituents has weighed in, and I've gotten emails from some of those folks, and, you know, I want to look at what the right thing is. I don't want to sidetrack what's important, and what's important is we need to be continuing this evening, talk about the resolution that's before council so that we can move on with our Johnson Drive, and then go ahead and getting our budget put to bed so that we can move on with our planning meeting with the Planning Commission and the City Council. So that's what's important to me.
Exactly. That is what's important, and that's why
Mr. Andre?
she wants to participate.
There's some materials at our desk here. One is labeled Code of Procedures for Kansas Cities. I've tried to peruse this material, but in the heat of the moment, I'm not sure I've gotten through it all. Is there any material in front of us that we should be aware of that's relative to this issue? Because I can't find any, but I'm not sure if I'm missing it.
Probably the most relevant section is when there's a vote, if you go to section 42, which is the very last. And it's really that first sentence.
And that makes sense, because as I scanned this material, I saw nothing to deal with electronic or absentee participation. And
Correct.
so since it says for those matters not covered, it shall be decided by the majority of the governing body. So it's basically up to us on this motion.
Right, and the governing body includes the city council and mayor.
Agree, understood. Thank you.
So is there any other discussion? Mr. Vandenberg?
Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah.
20 years from now, our kids will probably want to be tweeting back and forth in these council chambers. I do realize that there is a need to have a presence here in person at the council meetings. But I'm also leaning more towards where if we set a precedence and we do this one time, it could lead down a slippery slope of coordinating meetings around people's Skype schedules and things like that. It's really difficult. It's a big issue. Granted, it's been done in some instances where a quorum was needed. I don't know if this is the right time to experiment with it. I'm torn. It's a tough one. Because it is a good thing to have as many of the voices voting on issues as we possibly can. But I think it's also another thing to be present at the meetings, to be able to answer to constituents, be able to participate in the discussion. And doing it from a TV screen, I think could be very difficult. So,
I agree.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Cowdery?
I just wanted to say the things that we're voting on tonight were the things that we voted on last week. So part of it is to just for some of the council members here to finish their train of thought, but we did talk to the public, and she had a face-to-face with the public last week. That girl has not missed one meeting. She has been to over and above. We've been to maybe 3 meetings some weeks, and she's been to early morning meetings. So I think that to say she hasn't done her due diligence is unfair. And I just wanted to bring that point up.
Ms. Cowdery, no one said she hasn't worked hard or done her due diligence.
Okay.
I'd be the first to say she's there every Friday morning. We have wrestled this pre-development agreement to the ground. But again, it goes back to, if you ever go to Washington DC, you got to be present to vote. Go to Topeka, you got to be present to vote. You go out to the county commission, you got to be present to vote. You got to be there, you got to be held accountable. You got to be able to look people in the eye and tell them where you stand. And doing it electronically, I'm with Mr. Vandenberg.
Be the hero.
And it's a conversation we can have at a council work session, but I don't think it's a good thing for tonight. Okay, is there any other discussion? Please call the question.
Andre,
Aye.
Cowdery,
Aye.
Gibbs,
No.
Kring,
Nay.
Quinn,
Aye.
Shepherd,
Nay.
Vandenberg,
nay.
Mayor.
Nay.